I've been training the shed dogs for some time now, and a lot of the clients I was training shed dogs for would ask me, can you train that same dog to track? Can you train him for game recovery? Now, I said absolutely, but I wasn't exactly sure how we did it. So we started fooling around with it. This was a few years ago. During that process is when we put together the actual product stuff that we offer. We offer it real similar to the style of product we sell for our sheds. We sell a kit, it's got a booklet that I wrote, it explains the steps we take, it's got some products that we use, some tools really of what they are. People always ask me, is it really hard to train that dog to track? The answer is simple. I feel it's easier to train a recovery dog than it is a shed dog or a duck dog or a gun dog. The reason is there's fewer steps involved. And the same steps we use for our game recovery dogs, I use those with my shed dogs, I use those with my duck dogs, my waterfall dogs. It's less steps. I train my pheasant dogs to track and trail. What am I doing with this? Really, game recovery for a wounded deer is a long distance retrieve or fetch. Game of fetch is what it is. The thing about a tracking dog, these little dogs are versatile to the degree that we do everything with them. This one right here, I've got one. We're gonna work a couple different dogs today. We're gonna start out with these little guys. We're gonna show you what we do real early on. Then I got one outside, her name is Sadie. And I don't know if you guys do Facebook or not. If you follow us at all on Facebook, we've developed a little dog for Headhunters TV. So they're not here, but I've got their dog here. And their dog's name is Sadie. She's about 5 months old. Little black female, real nice little dog. We're gonna work her. Part of the reason we're gonna work her is because that's the point she's at in her training right now. She's teething. She just kind of started her teething. She's finishing it up. I don't do any retrieving during teething. It's a really good time to focus on the noses, especially if I'm gonna be tracking with them. So that dog is not only gonna be a tracking dog or a game recovery dog, she's gonna be a shed dog. She's also gonna be a duck dog. She's also gonna be an upland dog, a pheasant dog. The reason being is they do all that stuff on their TV show and they have to have a dog that'll do it all. So we will really be versatile with that dog. These dogs are trained for a little bit different. Most of my clients get tracking dogs and shed dogs. It's just what most of them want. But it all depends. So, tracking. I keep calling it tracking. Why don't I call it blood trailing? Here's the thing. People always ask me, what in the world did you call it game recovery for? You're so politically correct with it. Well, it's two things. Blood isn't real appealing on the shelf. That's the marketing point. But the other part of it is game recovery is what we're doing with the dogs. We're recovering game that we otherwise wouldn't find. Blood trailing, on the other hand, I don't need a dog to blood trail. If there's blood, I can follow it. It's when we lose blood that I need a recovery dog to come in. So we want to get away from the idea, because I know we had that reaction. We went through a bunch of names. What are we going to call this thing? We got that reaction. Well, blood trailing. Why would I buy blood trailing kit? I can track it if there's blood. It's a good point. So that's why we call it game recovery. One thing that we do with our little dogs is a game recovery dog is nothing more than a good problem solver. Really, that's what they're doing. They're taking a lot of pieces of a puzzle and they're working them and putting them together. Now, we train for that as best we can. I'm going to show you a lot of the things we do with these little ones. I'm going to show you what we do with some middle ones and how we get some older ones. Then we're going to see some dogs that work a completely different style. I learned, again, background, bird dogs, gun dogs. Got into the shed thing because I'm a deer guy. I think about deer every day, all day. And I started thinking, God, I don't want to do the bird hunting as much anymore because I think about them all day. And I don't have time in the fall to do both right. So that's how I got away from the bird stuff and into the deer stuff. The reason I started with the sheds is because I thought, I love training dogs. How do I take these dogs and help myself out with my deer hunting? That's when I started with the sheds. From that came this tracking stuff. But I'll tell you where I learned a ton of stuff. I learned a bunch of stuff about the retriever stuff years ago from some really, really fine retriever trainers. When I got into the shed stuff, I used a lot of that. When I got into the tracking or game recovery, I learned so much stuff. I bumped into a guy at an ATA show, actually. We were there with our shed products. It's the archery trade show. It's in the spring. A bunch of stores are there. We meet a bunch of buyers and stuff. I bumped into this guy and he came up to me and he had a shirt on that was like a foundation for wounded veterans. And a hunt for the wounded veterans, fallen heroes. And he comes up and he starts asking me questions about this tracking. Do you track with your dogs? I said, yeah, I have been actually. So he started really drilling me on it, asking some really tough questions. I thought, boy, back off a little, fella. Next thing he knows, he goes, "You passed." And I said, "Whew, I appreciate it. What did I pass?" He goes, "Now I can talk to you because I know you're not full of BS." He says, "I train canine dogs for New York City for years, 10 years prior to going into the service." He trained his dogs to track people. And we started talking about scent stuff. That's what he was asking me questions about. He trained dogs to go through New York City and follow specific scent of people based on dead skin cells that would fall off of them as they walked through the street. I'm leaving scent right now. There's stuff falling off of me. He trained his dogs to follow that through a crowd of people like this. I'll tell you what, man, if a dog's capable of doing that, this goes back to these shepherd dogs, because that's what he was training. If a dog's capable of doing that, you're telling me that if I shoot a deer through the guts and they run through the woods, my dog can't pick those smells up? Oh, they will, no problem about it. They smell everything. It's what do we teach them to do with what they smell. Dogs' noses are incredible. We'll get a little bit into the science of how well they can smell. But that's the background of my tracking stuff. Now, these little dogs are 10 weeks old. People always ask, when do you start training them? I start the day I pick them up. Guaranteed. But we start with obedience. I need a good foundation. I need control. I'm a big control guy. I like dogs under control. Whether they're tracking, whether they're hunting, whether they're in a booth, whether they're in the house, I like the control of them. And I don't want to hold them back. I want them to go with it. But I still like the control aspect. So some of the stuff we do conflicts with what I do with a lot of my retriever stuff. I like dogs working on heel. Well, I have to work a dog on a leash in Wisconsin, legally. You have to do it legally. When our dogs go on a leash, they really turn into a different animal. They are so controlled. We did it at a booth. I had that little pup and she was getting kind of excited. I said, "Watch this." I took this, I clipped it on her leash and I just let it hang there. And she looked at me like this and was just focused as could be. I mean, she was ready for direction. Reason is because this thing right now, she's only 5 months old. This thing is a lot of control to her. We've been working on it all the time. Now I take that little dog and I put her on a leash because I have to do it legally. And I got a dog that wants to have a tendency to look right at me and be under control, because that's what I've been imprinted in her for a long time now. Now, why do I use that? To be legal, but also because it's a different leash than any other leash I use. I only use it when we're tracking. Now, he was talking about putting on a different collar, putting on a different harness, that is a signal to these tracking dogs it's time to work. They start out when they're this little, and we're going to show you how. But that's something that we use. It's a tool that we use to trigger them, to get them to understand time to go to work. I pull out training dummies with my dogs for shed hunting. They really come to attention, focus, they get excited, the ears perk. You'll see that. It's a conditioned response. Same thing with this. So that's how we trigger them, get them going. This little one, I'm going to show you how we started out real early. Now, never done this before. I brainstormed it. It just came to me in a dream. I don't want to pour stuff on the floor because we want to be able to do this again next year. And we were afraid they wouldn't let us. So we are going to use a little roll of paper. I wouldn't do this normally. First thing I do is bring out natural instinct to my puppies. These puppies have great noses, no doubt about it. They smell everything. Early on, they can't even see. They're blind, their eyes are closed. They find mom's milk, food, their survival, their lifeline with their nose. Mace, you want to come here? We're going to have, you want to hold on to one of those, you want to hold on to that pup? I'm going to show you what we do early on. How do we get this little pup started? This is our kit. There's a booklet that I wrote, kind of walks you through all this stuff. Real hide. This is a real hide that we have. We have it in here. We also have them separate by themselves. The reason is because when I train, I use two of them. I use one that I lay the scent with always. It doesn't get contaminated. It gets hide and it gets our blood trail scent. Now, this is something we make ourselves. Blood smells like iron. Doesn't have scent to it, besides it's an iron scent. When it touches and rolls off the hide of an animal, it gathers bacteria and it starts to smell. Our dogs smell that. So what we do is we take this scent. Now it's incorporated, some of that scent of the hair is incorporated into this because I use this sometimes by itself and I'll use driplets. We do all sorts of different training because when we're training a dog to recover, We're trying to set them up with as much experience as possible. We will never be able to simulate a true wounded deer. I don't care how good you are, you can't simulate it 100%. We'll get to that in the end, but that's how we finish dogs off, is on real tracks, doing things that we can't simulate. We try to experience as many things as we can in training. The first thing I want to do with a little dog is just get them excited about the idea of there's something at the end of this. There's something that's going to be fun that I'm going to use my nose to get to. It's going to be visual to start out to ensure success. So what we do is, I'm actually going to open a kit up. Take a clip. I take the piece of hide. Now what you do is, you take this hide out, it's dry. It's been naturally fleshed and dried, no chemicals, naturally preserved. You rehydrate it. Anybody in here a taxidermist? Taxidermists take hides that have been fleshed and tanned. When they put them back onto the deer, they're wet. They rehydrate them, they get them wet. Then they stretch. This one I can stretch. So what we do is, I take it out dried, I soak it in water. This one's only been about an hour and a half. I say in the package to do it 4 hours. I know 4 hours is plenty. What I do is I punch a small hole in it, and now I got a clip on it. When I'm done with this, I'm gonna reuse it. If you leave it out, or put it in your training bag, I've done it before, the hair will pull within a day, because it's going to spoil. Now we got hydration back into it, now there's water, now there's bacteria. So when you're done with this, go buy another one. No, I wish I could, boy, I'd be rich. No, when you're done with this, put it in a Ziploc bag and put it in the freezer. Now you freeze it. Now take it out the next time you train, let it thaw a little bit, let the moisture start coming out of it, now you're going to lay nice scent trails again. You leave the clip right in it and freeze it, now you're not handling it at all, okay? Little drag line. I like using this drag line. I don't like using my leashes. My leashes have a lot of scent on them. I don't want to contaminate it. I got one drag that I use. I'll take it. I don't even have to put the scent on it yet, but we will in a minute. Bring that little pup over here. Now, when we do training, this is my son Mason. Oh, I gotta look sharp with him or they'll fire me. But he's the only the only guy I can afford to hire these days to work with me, so I gotta treat him good. He helps me with my training. What I do is, young little dog is natural predator-prey instinct. We're gonna get him to follow this thing. So what I do is, I take the little piece of hide. Now, I should be using, I would not use this one. The dog's gonna catch this one. I'm gonna let it catch it early on. So what I do is, I set it down, get right down on the ground with her. And we kind of get her excited. And you can tell, boy, that dog is just wound up, right? She's calm. She's a very calm dog. This goes against everything I say to do. I say don't get dogs spun up. This will make the exception. We'll get her excited and we'll get her to want to chase this. What is this? What is this? Now I'll get high pitched with her. I'll get her excited. Go ahead, let her go. Don't touch her.
Is that?
We got to get her comfortable.
Come here. Come here. What is that? Good girl.
Now, I use this hide. I also use liver. Pick her up for a second. I'll use a liver, a frozen liver. Next fall, when you shoot your deer, take the liver and put it in the freezer. I punch a hole in it, and I use the same clip. I freeze it into it. I put it in the baggie, and I reuse it. I should these are 10-week-old pups, have not done this before. We've done it with the yellow one. Let me see if the yellow one, we'll get them to both do it. But the yellow one's actually done a liver drag, a couple liver drags, and we did videos of it on Facebook. We haven't posted them yet. But what we do is, and this is totally off track, but Facebook, we put a bunch of free stuff on there, free training stuff. But we start out with liver drags, and I drag it across the yard, and I just let the pup chase it. And when she gets to it, and finally gets to it, I just tell her how good she is. I treat her like, boy, you saved the world, little girl. Caught the liver. And we let her lick on it. We let her really like it. Now, why I use liver? Liver's got a real sweet smell to it. Liver, dogs, I don't know why, but they love them. So that's what we do. Set her right up on this paper. And I don't know, maybe this paper will throw her off too a little bit, but we'll get her excited.
What is that? What is that? What is that? Come on, come on, come on. Come on.
We'll get her going. All about confidence at this point. We just want to get her comfortable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sink right in with her. You can, right there. Just going to get her comfortable. This is just reading your dog, is all this is. Now if I got a little dog that is uncomfortable with something, Some people, this is what makes a good trainer, I think. It's in my opinion maybe, but a lot of patience. You guys got to work yourself through these things. We got to get her excited. And I got to read her body. If she, oh, there's a tail wag, she's alive. Good girl. Now I'm hollering. Hollering is not real conducive to a dog thinking I'm in a good state of mind here. We get tail all of a sudden wagging, we get a little bit of interest in it. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Come on. Come on. You know what? We'll do it on the carpet. And all I'm trying to do right now is get her okay with, oh, you're a good girl. Oh, you're a good girl. What you got? Come on. Come on. Oh, she is intense of a dog, isn't she? What you got? What you got? Here, come on, come on, come on, come on. One way or another, we got her in. I call that success. That's how simple this stuff is. That's success. Good girl. Now, didn't quite take to it as confidently as I'd hoped. But a lot of it has to do with where are we right now. I'll tell you, the first time I do things with dogs, I do not suggest you do it with 150 people or 100 people in a room that's not familiar to them. I would start this out in a hallway, or I would start this out in my front yard where she's really, really comfortable. And we'll just get her going. You'll watch a video, and the video was shot a week ago of her really getting excited and chasing that little liver. That's okay. So what I would do is I lay this, I drag it, and at the end, I want something for a reward. My dogs are retrievers. They like to retrieve stuff. I'm going to show you with an older dog in a second. I take a canvas bumper and I wrap it with a hide. Now I soaked this hide once, wrapped it, let it dry. What I do is I let the dog find it at the end. Now when the dog finds it, I praise them. They get to pick something up and bring it back to me. The reason I use a separate one for leaving the trail is because we have less scent on it. It's more pure, it's more realistic. So we do the liver drags, then we go to the hide drags. Now, all these different scenting things, all we're trying to do is simulate what a deer might do when he's leaving a trail. They're gonna leave blood. Well, that's the obvious one, but we lose blood, now we call in a dog. The thing about a tracking dog is they'll decipher all these different pieces. Freshly disturbed ground by a deer running through the woods leaves a different scent than all the ground around it. That's a clue for my dog. We're gonna get them to understand that through some of our training. Further down the road, we're gonna scuff our ground. We'll go for spaces of trail that we don't lay any other scent, but we do scuffed ground. They figure out to pick that piece of puzzle up to get them to the next scent. And so what we do is we lay these little segments for them. Another thing, people are going to ask, and I'm sure this is probably a real bubble burster for you guys, because I'm sure there's 10 of you guys right now, I'm going to ask them, will that dog chase deer? Because everybody is afraid of a tracking dog that chases deer. Here's the thing, you got a dog that chases deer, you don't have a problem with a pheasant dog, you don't have a problem with your duck dogs that chase a deer, you don't have your shed dogs. You got a problem with your control of your dog. Your dog's chasing a deer for whatever reason, it's not been trained in this. This is trained to track a specific scent. Each deer has its own individual scent. Interdigital gland in between its hoof is its own, just like our fingerprints. It's its own scent. And this will really blow your mind, but a dog can separate the individual deer tracks. So at certain points, when we're on a track, the deer's gonna cross and there's gonna be a fresh deer or another deer track. My dog, through experience of what we're gonna do with them in training and then actual experience on tracks, will be able to determine and decipher which track he's supposed to be following. I'll tell you how we're gonna do that later on. We're talking about building in some distractions. Deer is one of them. But their noses are so strong they'll separate the scent. So that's what we're doing. Now I'm gonna bring in Sadie. This is Sadie. Sadie is 5 months old. Now just look at her nose. See what we just walked over? Did you see what happened? Immediately it hit the ground and oh, now I'm gonna show you something. You're all thinking, God, this is getting really boring. Mason, come here. We'll do a demonstration with her like we would have with the pups. And then you can kind of see it. And then we'll do, the one thing is you can't lay 10 scent trails in a room this big and expect your dog to be able to, it's going to really confuse. So we're only going to be able to do 1 or 2, and I'm going to show you the dog's working on those. She's teething right now, so we got away from retrieving. Here's what we'll do to simulate the track with her. And I'll show you what we're going to do. I'm going to take the scent. Now I got another one outside, if you can't tell. She gets excited too when we start doing some tracking work. She's an older dog with a lot of go, and we'll show you her. But, so I take this, hold you in the back. This is that part of that thing that I was telling you about the control that I just cringe about, because I don't want to tell her no. She's getting excited about this. I hate dogs that get excited and are out of control. So I take that scent and I lay the little trail for my dog. And at the end of the trail is her retrieve. When I do this, the last thing I want to do is turn around and walk back the same trail that I did to go get my dog. Now early on with the little ones, I'll do that trail and then I'll let the dog go. And the dog will just come and chase me and find it and pick it up. Catch it is what I'm really having her do. The thing is it's visual at that point, but she's smelling it the whole time. I'll do that a couple times to get her to start understanding what we're doing. The next thing I do is I don't have the dog sitting there. I lay the little trail, then I go get the dog. And I bring the dog to that spot, and I take a little ball of clodded up dirt, and I just pitch it. And it hits the ground and it just falls apart. There's nothing for her to pick up. If I throw a rock, my dog's gonna run over there and pick the rock up and bring it back to me. I don't want that. So I take a little balled up dirt, I give her a little mark, get her started. Now, Sadie is starting to learn the difference between her leashes. This is that signal to her that she does not have to heel by my side. Boy, look at her, she gets on this and she thinks, this is awesome, I love it. I hate it. That's why I try to hurry through this part, because I lose a lot of control with her. But I'll give her a mark. Now watch her work her nose down. And I give them a hunt command. I give them the same hunt command that I give my shed dogs. My shed dog's command is find it. Whatever you use it consistently. Once they start, I don't hardly talk to her anymore, because she's working. If she falls into a spot where she loses it, and I got to get her back going, I'll use a little verbal, but let them work. Let them figure it out. You laid the scent. You know, remember where you laid it. If you got to mark it. But you laid the scent. Let them figure it out and help them best you can. We're legal because we got the cord, but we're also got a little control too if our dogs get loose when they're young. Fine. Oh boy, the paper wasn't a good idea. Boom. That's all right. I'm gonna let her.
Good girl! I said good girl! Good girl!
And she really thinks she did something pretty special there. Boy, she says, gosh, that's a lot easier than what I've been doing. We got her right now. When I start them out with 5-yard trails. Build off of success, no matter what we're doing in training. We want to be successful with every lesson and build on it. So we start out with 5-yard tracks or trails, then we go to a 10, then we go to a 50, then we go to 100. We slowly add distance. Now, she did that real easily. We've got her up to, and I'm slow. I take my time with this stuff. We've got her running tracks right now about 150, 200 yards probably. That's about it. Because what I do is I run them straight. A lot of success. I get her downwind of it. My dog's an air center. My dog's going to have its head up. And he's going to be downwind. And at times he's 10 yards away from where I laid the trail. But I know where I laid the trail. And when they get down there, I watch them just kind of quarter and cast into it. And they correct themselves and work back. That's all right. That's just the style of dog. So when we get them doing straight line with success, I throw a little loop in it. I do a 90-degree turn. So that's the next step. I drag, I put a bunch of scent at the 90, and then I make a turn. And the first time I do it, no doubt about it, my dog will blow right through it. They always do. Because every time they've tracked, they ran a straight line, and they always found what they were doing. Boy, time really went fast. It's too, yeah. So God, I really talk a lot. I'm not getting very far into this at all. So you blow through a 90 and the dog will correct itself, but you're there to help them. You're there with the collar, you're there with the tracking lead, but you're there to help them back in. As soon as they get back into it and they start the right direction, now I would set them up to be successful too. I'd work with a quartering wind that catches both directions. So I get them on a straight, but now when it blows through and has to work back in, the wind is blowing to it. Easy finish. Success, success, success. Then we can start adding multiple turns, zigzags, we can 90 both ways. That's just incremental training. Now this is all covered in the book, and it goes into a whole bunch of other detail. But that's how I get these pups started. But the thing about it is we simulate tracks. That's all we can do with them. At a certain point, we are going to take these dogs and we're going to have to put them on the real thing. I always talk about the phases of our training. I talk about the phases of our training. Field work or yard work is first. We do a ton of obedience, we do a ton of yard work. Then we go into the field and we use basically the same stuff we did in the yard, but we do it in the field. From that, I got transition phasing. Transition is going from the field work into a hunting situation. That's control, that's game farm type stuff, that's pheasant farm stuff, that's the transitional part. Then you got the hunting part, and guys usually stop at the transitional part. They usually get to the point where it doesn't really get at the game farm and off to South Dakota we go, and we're just gonna kill a bunch of birds. But what happens is we lose all control of our dog that we worked so hard for in the field, in the yard, and in the transition. We let it go all out the window, and we're just gonna shoot stuff, we're gonna hunt. You lose everything that you did. So we want to spend a bunch of time. Field, this is yard work. Field work would be doing the same stuff in the field, a little bit more realistic. Transitional work that I call is what I do at Bluff Bucks Outfitters. I work for them in the fall as a guide. I take every dog that we got in training and I bring them with me in the fall. Every deer that we shoot out there, that our clients shoot, we track with a dog that we got in training. I'm not going to risk a young dog failing on a first or early on search. You know what I do? When the hunter comes in and he's pumped and he says, I 12 ringed him, he tipped over 75 yards away, he's dead, let's go get him. Let's go get the little pup that's in training, put her on, and guaranteed success. We will find it. So we take transitions. Now, that is about 50% of the stuff I wanted to talk about in this hour. So if you have any questions, we have some DVDs coming out. Gun Dog Magazine, we teamed up with them. We got a tracking DVD coming out this fall. We have a shed training DVD coming out this fall. Facebook, if you do Facebook, now that Game Recovery is on the shelves, we shipped the Bass Pro and Cabela's last week. They're sold out of them in Green Bay this weekend. Now that they're out there, we're going to start putting some videos out on what we do with our tracking dogs. They're free. It's Facebook, obviously. So you can, if you're interested in that, go to our Facebook page. It's Dogbone Hunter. I don't know how to get there. But if you go to our website, you click on the little Facebook, it'll take you there.